Welcome back to our third session on information sharing. Joe?
So 15 years ago, I'm in Silicon Valley, and as an information technologist in that type of environment, you're using those skills to create new information products. You're using those skills to market those products. So you persuade and compel. You persuade people that what you're building is a good idea. You compel them to buy it. Now, forward in time, I decided to come back to Cape Breton in 2014, and I'm still an information technologist, and I've got 15 years under my belt marketing, but also becoming more socially aware as I've matured and looking back at my community and realizing what's happening. And I realized that you can still deploy these information technology and digital marketing skills in a way that communicates about social and economic issues. And it's still the target is to persuade and compel. Through Go Cape Breton, I've been actually working in both areas. I've been writing about social and economic issues. I've also been writing about technology and innovation. And as I get to meet and talk to more people, I realize that that message actually is getting out there.
Thanks, Ian. I know Joe has a comment as well. And if there's anyone in the audience, please let us know.
So with me, one of the things I try to do is, as a citizen contributor, I'll say, is to sort of work with the media cycle, but also not to solely rely on it. And without any media attention whatsoever, when you sort of go out and harvest the local platforms like a Go Cape Breton or even particular Facebook groups, you have an audience there, so you're not solely dependent on traditional media. There's two sort of ways to work with them, though. When they put a story out and you have a concept, get your idea out in that time when they've created a high public awareness, so you can kind of ride with that and draft them a little bit. But also, if you've composed a story, a typical author or journalist might not want to rehash something that they've already written. That doesn't matter to me. The idea is what is important. So if it comes back into the news cycle, I'm out there on Twitter or social media, I'll share what I've written back to that so that it sort of injects itself into the story. The people that are reading them may see what I'm contributing, and then I'll become a part of that discussion. So it's a lot about persistence, and it's also a lot about just not relying on that media cycle and getting out there. So if today a story goes out and it causes concern for me, and I note that I want to write about that, if I don't get to write about it in the next week, that's okay for me, because in 2 weeks, that issue will still be there in the community, whether or not the media is paying attention to it at that point. So just persistence, working with the media cycles, but also being willing to work outside it and identify platforms that are social media and the people themselves that don't rely on that media. One of the things I tend to avoid is to call myself a citizen journalist. That word journalist is scary, so I prefer just to be considered a contributor. So I don't necessarily have that professional skill set. In fact, I don't, but I can still share an idea and have a discussion. So one of the things is that if you're not about being an author and you're just about having a discussion, you don't care who gets credit for the discussion. And so one of the things I do, if I don't think I can follow up on something quickly, and give it the attention that it needs, I'm always pitching it out to local media, whether it's behind the scenes or open on Twitter and saying, hey, did you see this really important piece of information? I have some data, I'll send that to you. So I'm not trying to protect that information as an author or someone that would say I'm a journalist. I want to share that because the importance to me is to get it out to the community, not to be the one that gets the recognition for sharing the idea, right? And so as a community, that's a role you really have to take if you're really about just contributing positively to the community and not, writing a piece that's going to be recognized as a professional piece. And it's not bad that journalists do that. That is the profession. But pitch the story to people that you think can get the idea out there. It doesn't always have to be you that contributes.
We need to be the persons who are generating the content and paying for it as well.
Thanks. Joe?
So I'd just say, don't hold yourself to too high of a standard when it comes to sharing an idea, right? The core of it is that everybody can contribute. You don't need to have a particular level of education or profession. Put the idea out there, and the standard that you need to hold yourself to is that you do it with goodwill. It's about creating something positive out of that. Now, it may be a critique. It may be something that you need to identify in order to get to the positive, but do it with goodwill. And wherever possible, propose a solution. And if you can't propose a solution, then request one. But put the idea out there so that the people that are out there silently thinking like you have a place to converge. And we can all do that. We don't need to rely on the media, but definitely work with the media because they amplify that message for us when we get that out there and we're persistent. So that's about all.
Great, thanks. I'd like to thank our panel for coming here, Joe Ward, Stephanie McPhee, Rob Calabrese, and Ian McNeil. Thank you very much for helping us with this session. Another short break, and then we'll try and get back to close to being on schedule as possible. Thanks, everyone.